In this episode of Falmouth in Focus, we go behind the scenes at Falmouth's Emergency Preparedness Fair, check out the new water bottle filling stations with the Falmouth Water Stewards, and take a look at the fire hydrant painting around town. All this and much more on this edition of Falmouth in Focus.
Hello and welcome to Falmouth in Focus, FCTV's current affairs program. I'm your host, Michael Kasparian. We start off this episode by looking at hydrant painting around town. FCTV's Jeff Wyman heads out on location with Brian Gardner of the Falmouth DPW to discuss the town's initiative on fire hydrant cleanup and painting. Brian shows us the process for cleaning and painting the hydrants and gives us some insight into the timeline and strategy for the completion of the project.
So my name is Brian Gardner. I'm a utilities maintenance worker with the town of Falmouth. We're in the utilities division, which most people would commonly know as our water department, although we do handle some sewer stuff, more repairs than anything else. But our main job is keeping the clean water flowing throughout the town and make sure the hydrants are painted, everybody's happy, there's no leaks, there's nothing going on. About a month and a half ago, we started our hydrant painting program up again, so we're gonna make sure all the hydrants are painted and working and everything's up to date. And so we picked West Falmouth for this part of the year. We started at our new water plant on Gifford Street. We worked our way up and out, and then we kind of went to Brick Kiln Road and then hit 28. We're working our way up. Mainly the main drag, and then anything that's highly visible, the main, anything that you're gonna see first, and then we'll come back after and get all the side roads. In particular today though, they want us to focus on this area out here, just because it's a little bit more rural and not commonly seen, so they want people to know that we're actually out here and we're working and we didn't forget about them. So we have over 3,000 hydrants in town. So it's start to finish. It's going to take a few years. We'll start over, and by the time we finish, it'll probably be time to start back over again. But it'll be a couple of years before we get them all painted. So it's pretty basic. We got a wire brush, so we'll go and we'll scour the hydrant itself and clean up any loose debris, dirt, things like that, loose paint, anything that may fall off or inhibit the paint from sticking. Get it nice and clean, wipe it down. And then we have a nice enamel-based paint that we use specifically for hydrants. It helps keep the rust away, and any rust that is forming, it'll keep that down and stop it from forming anymore. And basically creates a nice hard shell, if you will, to keep the salt there and the weather off of it, and make it look good for many years to come. With this new paint, it should be many years, 10, 20, 30 years before we got to come back and touch them up. But we have the salt air around here, so it can mess them up pretty quick. But I mean, the hydrants are tough. The paint's more of an aesthetic thing than anything else. You could have a hydrant that isn't painted and it'll last you 50, 100 years. Some of them, they're built so well and they're so simple. It's not really needed, but like I said, it's more of an aesthetic thing. Makes them look good and, makes them last a little longer. Depending on what part of town, we do have a color code. The bonnet, which is the top of the hydrant, is color coded. So you'll see green, you'll see blue, you'll see yellow. It indicates how much flow can actually come out of that hydrant due to age or the size of the line feeding it or the size of the water main nearby, that kind of thing. Kind of tells the fire department, if there's a need for a hydrant, which one's best to suit their needs. I mean, a lot of little concern we see is people see the hydrants aren't painted and they think they're not working or we're not maintaining them. It's certainly not the case. We're just like everybody else. We're very busy, got a lot going on, and hydrants are certainly an important part of what we do, but like I said, it's important for people to know it's more of an aesthetic thing for paint. Just because they're there and they may not look good, we're definitely maintaining. We're not working. We're checking them. We have a flushing program we go through and we operate every single one of them. And as we find ones that may not be working to our specifications, we'll certainly replace them and changing them out. And we're very much on top of things, even though it may not quite look like it some days. The two main issues you're going to see, if a hydrant's leaking, you see water dripping out or flowing around it, that's certainly call immediately. There's something going on or may need some repair. Or the other thing too is a lot of people don't realize, like, they're tough, and like a car hitting it is our biggest concern. So if you see a car hit or you accidentally back in one, it's good to call just so we can come out and take a look at it. Especially the newer types, they have what's called a breakaway bolts. So it's actually designed to take a hit from a car or a truck or something like that and be stood right back up. And the nice thing too, a lot of people don't realize, we're in a cold climate, so we have what's called a dry barrel system. So when a car does hit these hydrants, it's not that Hollywood scene where the water's gushing out 30 feet and everybody's like, oh, they think it does. It's not actually the case. We got a system where the hydrants dry year round to stop it from freezing and breaking in our cold weather season.
The DPW plans to continue the project until all of the hydrants in town have been not only cleaned and painted, but checked to make sure they're in working order. Thanks to Jeff Wyman for that piece. It's time now for 3 Things from Town Hall, FCTV's condensed version of the takeaways from recent municipal meetings. Selections are chosen based on community impact.
After a recent Cape Cod Commission study on the Woods Hole Historic District, the Falmouth Historic Commission recommended that the selectmen extend the historic district north beyond the Water Street drawbridge. The Commission also reported on possible improvements for pedestrians and bikers, recognizing the importance of these modes of transportation for the community.
The issue that we heard the most concern about was pedestrian comfort and safety on Woods Hole Road, and also bicycle safety along Woods Hole Road. So there was a lot of interest in adding additional crosswalks and narrowing the roadway where crosswalks are located, which has been effective in many areas in slowing down travel speeds by vehicles a little bit.
The Planning Board held a public hearing at their last meeting regarding the various articles on the warrant for the fall town meeting. Many members of the public showed to voice their concerns, mainly for the articles focused on solar energy. The members of the public who spoke were concerned the new wording in the site review bylaw would impede the construction and use of solar energy in Falmouth.
We wouldn't want to be limited to 20% based on the square footage, let's say, of the panels. We don't think that would be appropriate. That might be too much of a squeeze and an unreasonable regulation. And I think, as he has pointed out, with other smaller parcels, this would sort of could be an impediment to the development of solar on smaller lots. So.
The Planning Board was reassuring to the concerned citizens that impeding renewable energy was not their intention. In the last Selectmen's meeting, the Board read through the articles for recommendation that will be up for debate in this fall's 2018 town meeting. Among the articles discussed for recommendation were many petitioner articles, including ranked choice voting, changes to the electronic voting system, and creating a new solid waste division in the Department of Public Works. The Board talked over the articles on the warrant and made their recommendations to the required articles.
I think when you see some of these type of articles, particularly from a group like Solid Waste, that they do their homework, Linda Davis and the rest of the board, really they do a lot of research. And I think you're seeing this come out of some frustration that they've done a lot of work over the years to try to advance some of the, some of their ideas that are, pretty critical to sort of the future of how we manage solid waste.
No, but I think it's also fair to ask our Deputy Department of Public Works to actually give us a picture of where we stand. The picture is changing, the disposal issue is changing. Well, what's our thinking for the future on how we manage all this?
So on this, we've had a motion for indefinite postponement in a second. All those in favor? Aye.
To see the meetings in their entirety, check out Government Channel 15's program schedule at fctv.org. It's time now for this month's calendar segment. October 11th will be the final Falmouth Farmers Market for the season. The Cape Cod Marathon weekend begins October 27th with the half marathon, the full marathon, and relays will be held on the 28th. Also on October 28th, if you're looking to find out more about the ballot questions in the upcoming election, Falmouth Jewish Congregation is hosting an informational session for voters from 2 to 4 p.m. And here at the Mesa Gallery is an exhibit entitled Sacred Spaces, showcasing mixed media artworks by Linda Diaz. FCTV is also seeking submissions for our first November gift gallery. Artists, photographers, and craftspeople from Cape Cod, southeastern Massachusetts, and the islands are invited to submit work for this exhibit. All works must be available for sale. Deadline for entries is Friday, October 26th, 2018. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll visit Falmouth's Emergency Preparedness Fair. Stay with us.
Jane is a striking tortoiseshell domestic short-hair female. She's only a year and a half old and sports a shiny black coat marbled with orange. She also has incredibly expressive golden-colored eyes. She's a lively one who is very interactive and sweet with just a bit of tortitude thrown into the mix. Jane raised her family of 6 adorable kittens that all have been adopted, and she is now looking for a forever home of her own. Her foster mom reports that she was a great mother and an absolute love to have around. Why not come in and meet this stunning little lady and see if her lively nature would fit in with your family? If you'd like to visit Jane or some of our other equally lovely cats, come into the shelter at 44 Beagle Lane in T-Ticket. We're open to the public on Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Our hotline is 508-540-5654. Press 0 if you have cat-related issues, questions, or want further information about People for Cats, or press 2 if you need financial assistance for veterinary care for your cat.
Welcome back. Being prepared well before natural disasters or emergencies occur is a key to saving lives and property, especially in a coastal community like Falmouth. At the recent Emergency Preparedness Fair held at the Gus Canty Center, local organizations were on hand to share their tools and techniques with visitors of all ages.
Our emergency preparedness and fire prevention event is all about providing information to the community so they're better prepared in the event of a natural disaster. We have about 60 organizations here today, and we have a lot of vendors and nonprofit organizations that are offering information to prepare the community. So what we know is that if the community has this information, when there is a natural disaster, they're better prepared to face it. They know what they should have in their emergency preparedness kit. They know where the shelter is. They know what to bring to the shelter. And there are other nonprofit organizations that provide them information to ensure that their family members who have various special needs are taken care of as well.
The Community Emergency Response Team in Falmouth is a group of citizen volunteers. We actually assist and adjunct the 911 operations that occur in town. Anytime there's either a local natural disaster or singular event, we get them together when we're deployed, and we're able to go out and assist them for search and rescue or running the shelters in the times of storms and things like that.
This is the Child Identification Program, which is sponsored by Marine Masonic Lodge here in Falmouth. Basically what it is, we take all the information of your child, we put it into a computer, we do electronic fingerprints, we take their photograph as well. If something were to happen to your child, you would very simply take the disc with all the child's personal information on it and give that right to the police.
So the Red Cross is one of the largest organizations that does both natural disaster response and emergency response. We have information on hands-only CPR, which we're doing demonstrations for.
We're from Falmouth Aries, the Amateur Radio Emergency Service. We provide communications from the shelter to the Emergency Operations Center at the fire station. We fill the role of standby and auxiliary communications in most cases. We also, in some cases, are primary communicators.
So we've been trying to push this initiative for a couple of years to have an indicator form just for the disabled to fill out and go into a database that if there is a need for sheltering, they know how to get to them and move them from their home to a shelter.
Okay, what we have out here is a bunch of common causes of fires, and we're illustrating by showing the actual artifacts themselves that go ahead and illustrate a particular message. We emphasize the importance of the fire extinguishers, the right placement of the fire extinguishers. Don't put them in a place where they're inaccessible. Put them in a place where you can get at them, which is usually in the exit path, just as you go out the door.
We brought our stuff related to Smokey Bear and information about how he came about and prevention that he provides, like only you can prevent forest fires or wildfires is his new terminology.
If it was, say you said a plane crash, I would be part of what's called a ground team, a UDF ground team, which basically uses one of these radio receivers to find beacons, which are in aircrafts. If it was, say, a hurricane hit, I would help out with disaster relief efforts.
We're part of the regional response effort. If the Red Cross sets up a people's shelter, for example at Falmouth High School, we set up a parallel pet shelter in the same building so that people who evacuate to the shelter can bring their pets with them.
And I just hope everybody remembers what they call. What's that? 911 when you got an emergency. That's right, Zeke. We're also glad to be on SCTV. That's right. And thank you very much for saying hello to us today.
Be sure to follow Falmouth Emergency Preparedness and FCTV on Facebook and FCTV channels to keep up to date with the latest local news during an emergency. Thanks to Andrew Richards for that piece. Visitors to downtown Falmouth and Falmouth Heights will now be able to refill their water bottles thanks to an initiative from the Falmouth Water Stewards, who've partnered with the town of Falmouth to install free public water kiosks. The initiative is called Refill Reuse Falmouth and was organized to encourage the use of refillable water bottles instead of single-use plastic bottles.
There are 4 elements of the water distribution here at this water station. The first is a fountain, which is right here, just a traditional water fountain or bubbler, and it's a really good stream. The second is the bottle refill ports. We've got them on either side, right here, and you just put your bottle underneath. The second one is on this side, it's a little bit higher up. Note about the water station for the drinking, it's wheelchair accessible. And the fourth element, you'll note at the base, and I don't know if you can see the sign, the instructions, but it's for dogs. And there's an arrow and a paw, and it says dogs drink here. And this is the basin, right here is the basin for dogs, and it gets refilled from the fountain here. And it's really successful. The dogs really like it. The reason we were able to put this one in and also one in Falmouth Heights in June at the Falmouth Heights ball field is thanks to a very generous grant from the Falmouth Road Race. Part of their philanthropy program, we applied for a grant and received a grant from them in December. And that got us started. That was really, really important to this whole initiative. And we're really appreciative to the road race. We worked very closely with the water department's superintendent, Steve Rafferty, and the town itself did the installation, which involves excavation linking to a water line and installing the pad, installing the piece of equipment, and in the winter time, in the late fall, they'll turn this off, drain it, so it will be ready again come next spring. And what better time to start an initiative to reduce people's reliance on single-use bottles, single-use water bottles, by having these water stations with messaging about it, as you can see we'll be able to see ultimately on the back side of this, and to give people an opportunity, because you can't ask people to give up those bottles, those single-use bottles, unless you have an alternative. Now, we all have taps at home. But when you're in town, if you're thirsty, well, do you go and buy a bottle of water, or do you go to this water station, get a drink of water from the fountain, or carry a refillable bottle and refill it? And that's what we were after. And then that to catch on and people to give up those single-use bottles.
The Falmouth Water Stewards are hoping to secure enough funding to install several other water kiosks around town, including the Shining Sea Bikeway. Thanks to Bob Fenstermaker for that piece. Hundreds of cyclists pedal through town every year as part of the Watershed Ride, which raises thousands of dollars to support the work of the Buzzards Bay Coalition, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the health of the Bay's ecosystem. We spoke with the event manager, Deb Hood, at the finish line to learn more.
This is the 12th annual Buzzards Bay Watershed Ride, and it's a ride that spans 100 miles from Rhode Island through the south coast of Massachusetts to Cape Cod, raising funds to support clean water in Buzzards Bay. So you can't ask for better weather, and we rode the course from, when you just go through the farmlands in Little Compton to the Harbor Walk in New Bedford, and crossing through Onset Village and Wareham, and all the countryside in Rochester. It's the picture perfect autumn day for the Watershed Ride. So I think so far it's a success. So the teams have become very popular with the ride in recent years. We have a group from Bourne called the Bourne Rail Trail Blazers, and so they're trying to connect the Falmouth bike path to the Cape Cod Canal path with a new section of bike path, and so they have 28 riders today. They've raised over $21,000, so they're kind of an exciting team. We also have the New Bedford Police Department cycling team riding with us this year, so they've got their own support vehicle, and so it's nice to have first responders with us, and it's just it's exciting to see the support. We have a group from Falmouth called the Falmouth Riders, so it seems like there's support from every town around the watershed. And so much of the work that we do, we think of supporting clean water, you think of the water in Buzzards Bay, but so much of the work we do is on land, protecting hundreds of acres of land, conserving land, restoring important watershed buffer lands. And so it's nice to give people the opportunity to sort of go through those coastal properties and experience it all in one big day-long bike ride. So the coalition recently, we're opening a field operations facility in Marion, Massachusetts, where our events will be. The equipment will be located. Our Bay Watching Citizen Scientist program will operate out of there, as well as our Land Stewardship Office. But we're also opening a center in Onset that's going to be a swimming and sailing program for sort of the underserved youth of that community. So we're just trying to have a presence in all parts of the Bay to make sure that people have access to Buzzards Bay, to fall in love with it, to get excited by it, and to ways to volunteer and join the coalition to save Buzzards Bay. So I would just invite people to try, if you've never done an organized cycling event. We have a 35-mile option for newcomers that's really achievable. If you can go, we say if you can go down and back on the canal, that's 14 miles, and you just have to double that to do the 35. So it is achievable, and so we'd encourage people who've never done an organized ride to give it a try. We are usually the first Sunday of October every year with the Watershed Ride, and we'd love everyone to come out and try it.
242 riders participated in this year's ride, along with dozens of volunteers to make this year's ride a success. Thanks to Alan Russell for that story. We'll be back with a look at IT programming at Falmouth High School. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Adrienne, a proud member of the Rotary Club of Falmouth, Cape Cod. As a Rotarian, I'm part of a global network of volunteers who dedicate our time and talent to tackle the world's most pressing humanitarian challenges. Rotary International connects 1.2 million members from more than 200 countries and geographical areas. Our work impacts lives at both the local and international levels, from helping families in need right here in Falmouth to working toward eradicating polio throughout the world. Rotary projects focus on important issues like peace and conflict resolution, disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, and economic and community development. Locally, the Rotary Club of Falmouth has been actively serving our community for over 90 years, making us one of the longest continuously running clubs in the world. Our contributions to Falmouth students just in this past year include awarding $10,000 in college scholarships, including a new scholarship program celebrating 2 sport women athletes, providing funding to volunteers in public schools for financial literacy programs, supporting the Falmouth High School football team quarterback club, launching a new Interact Club at Falmouth High School, sponsoring 6 Falmouth High School students to attend the annual Rotary Youth Leadership Academy weekend, and helping to organize and implement Career Day for Falmouth High School juniors. Our philanthropic grant funds have supported area nonprofits such as the Falmouth Service Center, programs designated for military families on Joint Base Cape Cod, the Good Grief Project, Belonging to Each Other, Spore Gardens, and more. Rotarians volunteer for the wheelchair and elite division of the Falmouth Road Race at the Cape Cod Marathon and area triathlons, plus numerous other community events, big and small. We invite you to learn more about joining our club at falmouthrotary.com or join us at one of our weekly meetings. We gather for lunch at noon on Tuesdays at Atria Woodbriar. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves.
Welcome back. At Falmouth High School, students have a variety of courses they can choose from. A recent addition has been the introduction of a number of technology and programming courses. Aimed at addressing the growing demand for IT professionals across all industries, students can now learn the fundamentals of computer programming, web development, and networking. We now head to FHS to learn more about how students are being prepared for the 21st century.
Yeah, it depends on the class. So we have 4 different classes we offer here at Falmouth High School. The first is Intro to Computer Science, and that really gives the kids a taste of everything we do here. And that's from, programming, web development, how computers work, how the internet works, how data is stored. The next course after that would be web development, and that is helping kids, figure out how do you make a web page look, the way you want it, and how can you display content to, to share to friends or to share with people who are interested in it. And we use HTML and CSS for the web page class. The next class after that is Intro to Programming. And in that class, I hope to introduce kids to Java and prepare them to take an AP computer science course. And after that, we have app development, which is a class where the students program using Swift, which is the language that makes iOS and Mac OS and Watch OS and TV OS, and those are all the applications that run all the Apple products.
It's cool how you can put everything together and make it loop so you don't have to type it out every single time and solve problems easier.
My most thing that I wanted to do was have to be cybersecurity, so I would rather learn everything what is in programming in general or what's called AI. So I figured both these classes would be helpful, learning both languages and all that stuff.
Computers are just ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They just control almost every single part of our life. And I hope my courses kind of demystify computers, and they kind of just explain that they're just machines and they're doing a task, and we the people tell them what to do, and they get that job done.
Thanks to Ryan Weber for that piece. FCTV wants you to know that television can be as easy as hitting record on your smartphone. We'd like to invite all Falmouth residents and visitors to share their slice of life with us. Email us your photos and videos or upload them to Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram using the hashtag MyFalmouth or Falmouth in Focus to be featured on the show. Thank you to our most recent contributors. We leave you now with the sights and sounds of the T-Ticket Walk to School Day. Thanks for watching Falmouth in Focus. We'll see you next time.